Chris CUOMO here. Got to roll up the sleeves. Welcome to NewsNation. We have new information about the murder of the United Health CEO. The biggest question right now is, to me, not where is the killer? We'll get to that, of course. It's a manhunt. Got to find him. But whether the assassination of Brian Thompson is a one-off or only the beginning. We have an insider with some outsized concerns about what may happen next. Why? Well, is this the fruit of the poisonous tree of all this talk about anti-establishment and anti-corporations? Maybe. We'll discuss that. But here's what we know about the state of the investigation. Was the killer a New Yorker? Seems no. He arrived in New York City some 10 days before the assassination by bus. Bus is smart. Why? Less detected, less cameras. Not none, but less, okay? Different class of travelers. The bus originated in Atlanta. So did he get on there? No. The suspect boarded at some stop between there and New York City. Where? Critical question. They figure that out. They'll start to develop a locus of maybe that's home base. Where was he staying here in New York City? Not at the same hotel as Thompson. And Thompson was not staying at the Hilton Hotel he was shot in front of, which people keep saying he was. It's not where he was shot. We all know this video now, right? The assassin wasn't staying at that Hilton either, though we now know he visited it at some point before the shooting. Very interesting. Unless random, how did he know Thompson would be at a hotel across from where he was staying and when? Very key about how he developed this understanding. Remember, the assassin wasn't staying there. It wasn't dumb luck. The killer was staying at a hospital, a dingy dump hostel uptown with two other people in his room. He used a fake ID and cash to check in. Who were the other two people in the room? We don't know yet, but we do know that the killer did let his guard and his mask down. After finding video of the suspect purchasing water in a protein bar at Starbucks, a search near the crime scene led police to a discarded water bottle that matched the appearance of the one that they saw him buy, and part of a protein bar that they saw, and a burner cell phone was found nearby. Are there any contacts on the phone? Any DNA on the water bottle or the protein bar? Could be critical. The biggest development to date, the picture. What authorities believe is the face of an assassin. Reportedly, he lowered it. Why is he smiling? Reportedly lowered it to shoot a smile at an employee at the hostel while flirting. Look familiar? Call the police. On the forensic side, 3 rounds hit Thompson. 3 shell casings, the back part of the bullet, were recovered. It was not one shell with 3 words written on it, as you keep seeing. It was one word on each of the 3 shells written in a Sharpie. Deny, defend, depose. Okay? What does that mean? It's a well-known crisis management protocol. Specifically, in the insurance world, it's about being challenged about billing or payouts. Deny the allegation, defend what you did, which also means in part, not just protecting yourself, but creating process that can be expensive and lengthy. And part of that process is to depose. Sit down the opponent and grill them and try to short circuit their claims. This is one of several unsavory aspects of that business. Goes with common complaints about how insurance companies want you to pay them immediately or they'll come after your credit, but they delay anything out of their own pockets. Slow walking claims, dragging out litigation. But as we will discuss in a moment, none of that justifies this. But did it motivate this? Let's get into who this killer may have been. Pro or not a pro? Pro, demeanor. Demeanor in the video. It is not easy to do what he did, the way he did it. His shooting acumen, the ability to handle the weapon, the ability to clear the weapon and continue calmly, the cool in his exit, his knowing where to go in the exit, his knowing where to go to find Thompson. Gets off the train at 6:15, Starbucks 6:17, walks to that hotel 6:30, shooting 6:45. That's tight. That's efficient. He used a silencer or a suppressor. That's sophisticated. Quiets the gun, relatively. Used a fake ID and cash at the hostel. That's smart. He knew to get away in Central Park. Smart. Why? It was less cameras, less people, less density, more places to hide and secrete and change. He was able to mix with others. Why does that matter? He was able to show emotion. Why does that matter? Because it shows he's able to act in a regular way when he's about to do something highly irregular. It could go to training. He clearly wanted people to know why this happened, right? He put the words on the casings, left the casings for a reason. Now, signs he may not be as polished as I'm laying out. He showed his face. He's mixing with people, which can be read two ways. Stupid to spread yourself around. Maybe he didn't know how that weapon would work with the elongated suppressor, which is how it got jammed in the first place. Dropping things, the water bottle, the protein bar, rookie move. The big question, though, is why? Why did this person do this? Now, you got a couple of things. One, Thompson was a very rich and powerful man, one of the largest, if not the largest, insurance companies in the world. He was the CEO. Relatively unknown to the public. But he was facing an insider trading suit accused of dumping $15 million in stock before a federal antitrust probe became public. Now, is that enough money for someone involved with that to want him killed? That's a question for investigators. Well, what about the words on the casings, though? They don't have anything to do with that deal. They give a clear point of animus. Or are they too clear? Is it a red herring? It's an investigative term for something that smells a lot and draws your attention, but it's a distraction. That seems less likely, given the overall circumstances here. I think there's a better chance that this is about what's on those casings than not, but we'll see. There had been ongoing protests against United Healthcare at their HQ over exactly what those terms refer to: improper coverage denials. Another thing that we just saw in terms of, something like this wanting to send a message, Anthem, which is another big insurer, had said it was going to start only paying for anesthesia for a certain period. So if a surgery went too long, they wouldn't pay for the extra anesthesia. Very unpopular, seems very inhumane, right? After this, they decided to not go ahead with that policy. So what does that tell you? This is reverberating as a message. The policy update went unnoticed until this shooting. Now it seems to make sense. Now, what is the reaction to this? To me, it's the biggest surprise. I get not liking insurance companies. My family is sideways with one right now. But these tweets that came out about this, I'll get to them in a second. Don't put them up yet. What does history tell us about when things like this happen? CEOs are killed very rarely, okay? When it does happen, it is usually for political purposes. Like when? In this country, I can't give you any examples until this one. But in France, French businessman Georges Besset, assassinated by anarchists after mass layoffs at Renault, the big car manufacturer. German businessman Hans Schuyler, kidnapped, murdered by radical communists. Okay? Now, still gray, but here's one thing's for sure. There are a lot of people who are happy about this. Yes, hiding in the nice anonymous dumpster fire that is Twitter. But show these tweets celebrating his death. Even people who call themselves journalists, Ken Klippenstein and Taylor Lorenz, tweeting about how bad a man he was the day he died. People had similar tweets wishing Trump had been killed as well. All right, well, I guess that's par for the course these days, but don't these people understand? Won't someone in their life, if these are their real names, explain to them? You are worse than what you oppose when you celebrate murder as a justifiable end for disagreement over policy. I mean, what the hell is going wrong here? Really crazy stuff. and the people whose names are actually theirs, if you follow them and don't light them up, you're not doing your job as a citizen. So there are a lot of questions. All right, we're going to look at the forensic side, investigative side, but then also the why this corporate head, what does it mean about this business? How do they see those tweets about whether this is the first one, the last one, or really just the first one? Okay, so let's bring in somebody here who knows New York City as well as anybody. Former NYPD Commissioner Ray Kelly and former FBI Supervisory Special Agent, also knows the city intimately well, James Galliano. It's good to have you both. Commissioner, thank you for being with us. I appreciate you doing it. We've never really seen anything like this, especially with a guy who does it this way. What is your take on what you think we're looking at here?
Yeah, we haven't seen anything like this really since Castellano in front of Sparks Steakhouse. Which is
I didn't mention that. I didn't mention that because he was a mobster.
Not a businessman. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, he was a businessman, but he was a mobster, so that's why I didn't mention it. But go ahead.
Yeah. So it looks to me like this person was not a professional. He shot Mr. Thompson only once in the back. He shot him in the calf the second time, and the third shot didn't hit him. So I think a professional or somebody more attuned to doing this would have shot him in the head and would not have shot him in front of the hotel where he obviously knows, I don't know, there's a lot of cameras and lights and some other things as well. As you said, he dropped a bottle, this burner phone. Does it have prints on it? We don't know, but I'm not certain if he wore gloves or not. But I think this individual will be taken into custody soon. The NYPD is well equipped to handle a case like this, and they're obviously hard at work. And, facial recognition has changed law enforcement in so many ways. There's some resistance to it, but it's become much more definitive, much clearer. And I think it'll play a major role here. And obviously they're trying that as we speak. And the burner phone, who knows if it's really a burner phone? I assume the last word I had was that they hadn't opened it as yet. But we'll soon see.
They hadn't gotten into the burner phone. Do you believe that there should be... Say again?
Right. Haven't gotten into the burner phone.
Gotcha. Do you believe that there's reasonable concern that this is not a one-off? There could be more of these?
Well, I was surprised at the sort of avalanche of hate speech directed at insurance executives, but I think some of that is par for the course. Insurance companies are also in the business of refusing claims, and the threats go along with that. But the volume really surprised me. So we don't know. We don't know. Could be. Certainly, it's not beyond the realm of possibility here. And the investigators will have to look at that because it would be a national issue or even international issue if it was.
Jimmy, learning the new details, seeing his willingness to smile, flirt a little bit, what does that inform you about in terms of who you're looking for?
I think it goes right back to what the commissioner was saying. Simply put, Chris, there are no perfect crimes. And everybody that was quick to jump to the conclusion that this was a, hired assassin that had probably done this many times, I agree with you regarding his body language and his posture and the fact that he was calm, cool, and collected when he pulled off this brazen, what appears to be an assassination. But, this is the 21st century. New York City as an island, the island of Manhattan, there's 18,000 CCTV cameras scattered throughout, 17,000 internet-enabled cameras. The NYPD is going to do painstaking work that the commissioner is very familiar with. They're pulling all this new video. By tomorrow, there will be additional details on travel, on who he spoke to. Were there any accomplices? Did he meet up with anybody? When they do get into the phone, even if it is a burner phone, they can determine who he called. They may not know who the person was that bought the phone, but these are all little steps as we go forward, Chris. And I think the biggest thing right now that the NYPD is probably doing is getting a copy of that book from 2010 that you referenced that condemned the insurance industry, and it was titled something like "Why the Insurance Companies Deny Your Claims and What You Can Do About It." The fact that you had these shell casings with these etchings on them that you referenced there too. Was this a false flag deal? Was this somebody so sophisticated that they were trying to pull off a ruse? Or was it related to the delay, deny, defend, the treaties, which is essentially that insurance companies are greedy? We know that United Healthcare, I believe, had the highest level of denial, somewhere around 36%, when the industry standard or the median is around 16%. There were a lot of people that could have had an axe to grind here, Chris.
I got to tell you, people keep, we're still processing the election, right? About the grievance election and how angry are people. You want to know how angry people are? Yes. Look, social media takes no balls, okay? We all know that. You hide behind something, you say whatever you want to say. But we're not that old, okay, to remember what people act like when someone's been killed. This guy's got a family, okay? And those days are over. It is all animus all the time. And that's why people are worried about what can come next. Because if this guy is really just a jackass with a perverse sense of a cause, it's a pretty low bar of proficiency in America. People can learn how to use a weapon and get that calm pretty quickly. Gentlemen, thank you very much. As I get more information, I'll come knocking on your doors. Jimmy, thank you. Commissioner, as always, thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Good to be with you.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
4 minutes and 5 seconds. Coming up, the media response is disgusting, and it's really troubling. What is wrong with us? Now, what is it indicating in terms of how worried people in that industry should be? And yeah, you want to have the conversation. Is this a wake-up call for them? Wouldn't be for me if I was in that business, because you're never going to satisfy crazy. But CEOs have been getting death threats more and more often. Did Thompson? Shouldn't he have had a detail with him? If so, I mean, this guy was the head of a big thing. And is that profile going to change now? Our policy is going to change now. Two men who knew Thompson. One, his former bodyguard, that's key, and the other is a friend and CEO from another healthcare giant. What does he think of the response to this one? What does it mean for him? Next. Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson was likely assassinated. All right, we all saw it happen in the early morning hours as he headed into a conference at a Midtown Manhattan hotel alone. So, why was Thompson, who had received multiple threats in the past and had used security in the past, alone? And what are we supposed to make of the motive with this murder? Is this some kind of reverb about our politics and our hate of the establishment? And if you're going to hate companies, insurance companies are going to be on your list. What does this mean about how that industry has to react? Okay? We got perspective on that too. Let's ask someone who knew Thompson personally and professionally, the former president and CEO of Aetna's Medicaid division, David McNichols, and one of Brian Thompson's former bodyguards, Philip Klein. First of all, gentlemen, I know, Mr. Klein, you knew him well, and I'm sorry for your loss here. And I know you knew him as well, so I'm sorry about this. And let me ask you first, as somebody who was with him, tell me what people should know about Mr. Thompson when you were working with him as a security guard.
Well, the two things I can tell you is that it was back in between 2005 and 2009. And he was one of those guys that when you met him, you knew immediately he was charismatic. You knew immediately he's the kind of guy that you'd want to be friends with. I've told a few people today in our office, when we left him for the first time, he turned around, looked at me and pointed at me, said, "You be safe." And I said, "Yes, sir, and you be safe too." He was one of those guys that you knew was coming up in the world. During the speech, of course, as you know, Mr. CUOMO, we don't listen. We're too busy working. We're listening to things that are going on in our ears. He came into Dallas to give a speech to an oil company. I did remember seeing the faces in the crowd, and you always know when people get enamored with somebody in the jobs that we do. The smiles, the eyebrows up, everybody's happy. So it kind of put us at ease a little bit. We're never at ease, but I remember being at ease a little bit more. But I will tell you, on the second and third time, you know, he'd always come in and they'd release him from the DFW police to our care and custody. And he would always put his arm around me and say, "I'm glad to see you again. How's your family?" He was just that guy, in my opinion. And we don't get that very often.
If they had threats that were serious in the past, why would he have been alone?
You know what? That's the big question that we've been asking ourselves for the last 36 hours. You know, I deal with a lot of corporate executives, as you probably know, around the United States of America. And I can tell you all the way from the Big Five in New York, all the way to Los Angeles to the Big Four over there. I can guarantee you that there's not one of them that I know that does not have personal protection around them. I do not know why he went over there especially to New York City. And that's nothing about New York. Love New York, family from New York. I know a lot of people up there, but I do not understand. There is no reason in this God's green earth that he should not have had security around him. He was going into an open meeting with stockholders from around the United States. There's no reason for him to be by himself, especially running a multi-billion-dollar corporation that is currently under attack, apparently by some stockholders, and currently under attack by some folks that got some claims denied. And even his wife came out and said, yeah, he was in trouble. There were people that were threatening his life. I do not understand it. Maybe he had that charismatic position in his mind that, oh, nobody recognizes me and I can get from point A to point B safely. Maybe that was in his mind. Or the second choice is that, you know, that would be the personal decision, but maybe it was a corporate decision not to give him personal security, which I think would be maybe one of the biggest faux pas in the security world that I've ever seen in my entire life. But it's either one or two of those things. He didn't like security, or the company said, "No, we're not spending the money." I don't know. That's a big question that needs to be answered.
One last quick thing, and then I want to get to David. Is there anything about this that smells of an inside job?
You know, there's a little bit that smells like an inside job due to the stock investigation and the dumping of the stock. I don't know, but then I watched now we've got a little bit different video than you have. We have one that is a little less grainy, that shows the weapon. I've taken a pretty good look at it this afternoon. He had a baffler on the back of the gun, which kind of lowers the tone of the rappel. He had a silencer on the front that lowers the tone. I understand from what I'm reading is that living in New York, that there are rappel microphones that can recognize gunshots. They did not go off. So he knew what he was doing. But when you watch how he taps and racks the gun, he does it kind of very well as a kind of a novice professional, I would call him. He didn't drop the mag. He didn't try to readjust the gun. He just did it from the top. So that kind of sets me off a little bit. One, two, exactly what you said in the beginning of this show. He's going around smiling at people. He's lowering his mask to get a cup of coffee in a bar. I mean, come on, a professional doesn't do that. A professional would walk up, pop him in the head 2 times, and that'd be it. And
the worst part is he knew where he was going to be because he wasn't staying at the hotel. Thompson wasn't staying at the hotel, and that's a big thing. Let me bring in David here, though. David, God forbid, but there before the grace, this could be you. Yeah, United Healthcare has got some heat on it, but everybody's got heat on them at some point. What do you make of the reaction to this? And yes, it's just harpies online, but the animus towards the industry, the pleasure that this guy was taken out, what does that mean to you?
Yeah, it's kind of scary, isn't it, Chris? And good evening, by the way. when I think about it, it's misplaced. One thing people don't understand is CEOs in the health plan world don't make care decisions. They just don't. They're not trained to do it. That's not part of their job description. All of those things are done behind the scenes with evidence-based medicine, in sort of well-documented policies. You have to be careful about making exceptions. And so that's far away from the CEO, that he's responsible for everything that happens. And the other part is, in the insurance world in America, more than half of the insured population are covered by what are called self-insured plans. That means the employer is making the decisions about what benefits are covered, even what drugs are covered in some cases. And the health plan simply is administering what an employer has decided they want to make available to their employees. So to think that a health plan CEO is making those decisions on an individual basis is just so far away from reality. The problem is they're the name, they're very visible, they're the ones that show up in the newspaper, and so they're the ones that get the focus. And so this situation with Brian Thompson, who by reputation, a wonderful guy, and while healthcare is a very big industry, it's a very small fraternity, and people have reputations, and we know who the good guys are. And Brian Thompson was one of the good guys.
Look, I get it. I'm not judging him at all. I don't know him. I don't even know the investigations. I did a review of them today. It's too early on for me to really get what they have or what they don't have. But look, two things can be true. I do not doubt that I've been covering it for 25 years. The industry has practices that are often very onerous and can definitely make people not like insurance companies and have a lot of financial hardship and a lot of change to their families and their lives because of their dealing with the insurance companies. I get it. Full disclosure. My family is in a battle over a surgery payment with an insurance company right now. Why they want to fight with me, I have no idea when I have this platform, but I'll keep it private for now. Do you think this will make people in the industry think about how they're perceived and why? Not that this is justified. That goddamn that reasoning. I don't give any credence to that. But do you think it will make people think?
Obviously, it will. And so this issue of threats to healthcare executives is not new. I've been in running health plans and groups of health plans for 25 years, including United when I met Brian 20 years ago. And the truth is, the threats have been coming for forever. And so, you pay attention to them. You try to figure out which ones are serious, which ones are potentially actionable, as opposed to just an emotional expression. And so the healthcare world has been dealing with this for decades. And some people choose to get personal protection. And that's smart in many cases when you're in sort of unprotected, open areas. And so there's no question that what happened yesterday is going to cause every one of the major companies to take a hard look at their policies, how they protect their personnel, what's the best way to do that, knowing that it can't be 24 hours a day. It can't be in every circumstance. We saw the president be under threat, right, several months ago during the campaign. Right. And the truth is there aren't enough bodies to protect someone if an individual has made a decision they want to take somebody out and they're willing to trade their life.
It's true, but here's the problem. You've dealt with threats for a long time. Klein has been dealing with the practicalities of those threats, but not at a period like this since the 60s of organized, motivated, turbocharged animus towards elites and corporate industries. And I don't think it's a coincidence that this guy, this guy wrote those words on those casings for a reason. And I think the game has changed. And I think, Mr. Klein, business is going to be very good, but your job is going to be very hard. Mr. McNichols, I'm glad you're not actively as the CEO right now. I wish you nothing but good health. Thank you for discussing this with me. Phil, we'll be back in touch because we're going to have to understand more about this as we get more facts. Take care, both of you. And thanks. And again, I'm sorry for your loss. 4 minutes and 30 seconds coming up. I mean, look, I do see it this way. I don't know how you can justify this. You people on social media who are celebrating this are trash. But, man, are we angry. And so much is capable when people don't give a damn about compassion and humanity anymore. Trump's new Washington power couple, speaking of this, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, they spent the day with Republican lawmakers pitching their new Department of Government Efficiency, promises to cut trillions of waste out of the federal government. Well, how many golden toilet seats are you going to find? How do they keep their humanity and cut costs? I've got left and right on this next. Muskie. We're on Capitol Hill today. Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to meet with Republicans to pitch their new Department of Government Efficiency, otherwise known as Doge, which is the same name as Elon's crypto coin. Anyway, they're going to make cuts of the trillions of variety, they say. Okay. Can they? Sure. Will they? Let's discuss. They also are thinking about cutting daylight savings time changes, which they say costs the American economy nearly $500 million a year. Remote working, funding to things like PBS and Planned Parenthood. These are very small slices of spending, but they're big politically, right? So how did it go over? And there's a big question I got to start with. Let's bring in Texas Republican member of Congress Pete Sessions, who launched the Doge Caucus and serves as its co-chair. Is that your new nickname? Should I call you Doge now, Congressman?
You know, that's fair game, Chris. You have known me for a long time. You have known from the very beginning I am for efficiency and give the government every dollar they need, but not a penny more.
I got it. All the government you need, but only the government you need. Why no Democrats? Why not give it a chance to work together?
Well, in fact, we have 4 Democrats that have signed up with the Doge Caucus as of today. Open invitation. They took us up on it, and they will be welcome with what we do. And they'll be given authority and responsibility to fully participate with us.
Right, but they weren't there today, so it doesn't send a great signal. But I know Moskowitz and some of the other guys still hold out hope of doing this. I just think that the sooner you stop the division stuff, the better a chance you have of getting anything done. Are you now working for Musk and Ramaswamy? Do they get to tell you, here's what you need to cut?
You know, that's an interesting question. I think that we took their conversation today, both of them, while they were not scripted with each other, they both have a similar story to tell, and that story is, while they have built great fortunes and great organizations, they're worried about the country. And the country, as we know it, is going to double its debt in just a matter of years, Chris, and we simply cannot pay for that. Things double every 7 years. Mm-hmm. It gets out of control. But what we're trying to do here is to use, I think, what the American public saw, and that was too many offices of the federal government did not report to work. As you know, the passport office became a national problem. We have a problem here in Washington, D.C., the Ronald Reagan building. We have dealt with, myself as the chairman for government reform and oversight of the subcommittee that's responsible for government operations and federal workforce. We pled with the GAO, we pled with OMB and OPM to please give us an idea about efficiency and what the plans were. And OMB and OPM did not provide us information. They told us what the president's goal was, but the largest building here in Washington, D.C., as best we can tell, 60% of the employees came less than 1 day a week. And that is not the spirit of what the president offered us as an opportunity to have a government that would work with and on behalf of its people.
I get it. Let me ask you one thing, because I know it's early and I'm not going to try and hold you up on details. And as it develops, you know you're always welcome here to talk about it. What is your best guess of what the biggest target will be at this point?
Well, the biggest target is going to start with, I believe, getting workers back to work. You saw
so
that,
the stay-at-home work is going to be gone.
Well, you know, if we're going to offer an analysis of how much work is done. We're going to ask the question, how far behind are you? And government is well behind. The IRS, a long time. OPM, months. And so why not get back to work? And let's then determine how many people we need. But it would be irresponsible for us just to go in and tell everybody we don't need you.
Just to understand, well, that's the way Musk likes to do it. But just so people know, mandatory spending $3.8 trillion, discretionary spending $1.7 trillion. Half of that is military, some $860 billion. Is the Pentagon on the block? Will you guys finally make the cuts that people have been saying that the military could take for a decade?
I don't think that there's anything about this exercise that tells us that we won't put everything on the table. We have a website right now, doge@mail.house.gov. We're encouraging people all over, from industry, from government, from individuals. Tell us the things that you think we should be looking at, and then we will look at those. It is not going to be something where we just come in and slash and burn. It will be a deliberate information where we are going to not take time, but we will, in a disciplined fashion, determine what those cuts would be and changes. And we had asked the Biden administration for 4 years to do this. They refused to do it.
Listen, I get it. And look, we both remember what happened with the tax cuts that we talked about so much. And then Trump didn't want to cut any spending. Then the pandemic came and he had to write more, and he ballooned the deficit also. So both parties can get sideways on this. It's nice when you got the power of the purse strings. Everything you guys decide to do that you get resistance on, you got a platform right here, Congressman, to make the case. Take care. Beautiful Christmas to you and your family if I don't speak to you. Whenever you want.
You betcha. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Merry Christmas. Be well. All right, let me bring in Adam Smith, Representative Adam Smith, Democrat, Washington. It's good to have you, Adam.
Good to see you, Chris.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to your family as well. Your namesake, Adam Smith, the economist, would have loved this. And he would have said, this is great, man. The more you compare back on the public sector, the better it will be for the private sector. What's your big concern about what's going to get cut here?
First of all, I disagree with your take on my namesake. He's a bit more of a complicated dude than most people realize, having studied it a little bit, given my name. But second of all, we get two separate things going on here. And one's great, which is government needs to be more efficient. And I'm with Pete on getting people back into the building. That doesn't necessarily save any money. I'm also with him and looking at where are we spending money? How can we be more efficient?
It saves money if they don't come back. And that's what Musk is banking on.
That's fine. It probably, maybe a few. We'll see in terms of the work gets done. But at the Pentagon, I'm all in favor of it. Let's get more efficient. Let's get more effective. But then when you start talking about how much money you're going to save, that's where we do not have a debt and a deficit problem because of government inefficiency. Okay, we have a debt and a deficit problem because we keep increasing spending and cutting taxes on massively, in most cases, fairly popular programs. If you do what Musk and Ramaswamy are talking about doing, and you do it really well, and you get in there and you make government more efficient, you could probably save billions. I'd even go so far as to say you could probably save tens of billions. You're not going to save hundreds of billions, and you're not going to save $2 trillion by any stretch of the imagination unless you cut specific programs and increase revenue. And for all of the fanfare and all of the excitement about how we're going to have the deficit, you will notice they haven't named one specific thing that they're going to cut that amounts to any amount of money yet. So that's where this process sort of runs into a problem in my mind.
What is the prudence in the conduct of every private family can scarce be folly in that of a great kingdom. Adam Smith, referring that government should be like households, live within your means. Democrats are constantly cited for liking to tax and spend, but not cut spending. Is that true? Yeah. And is it time to change it if so?
You said earlier it's bipartisan. I don't think you can pick one particular party. The deficit went up by more, the debt went up by more than under any other president under Trump. So yes, there is a bipartisan desire to cut taxes and increase spending. And that is a problem we have to get after. But that requires tough choices. That's not just a matter of government efficiency. I will also remind you that Adam Smith said, whenever two or more business people gather in one place, it is to conspire against the public good. He knew that there had to be a balance between the private sector and the public sector. And that's what we're trying to strive. Now, I want to emphasize one thing. Pete's a good friend of mine, and I think we need to get after it and try to make government as efficient as possible. But let's not BS the public that this is going to balance our budget and save us $2 trillion. Right. You mentioned the mandatory part of the spending. It's $4.8 trillion, not 3.8, by the way. But that's Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid.
These were 2023 numbers.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Medicaid and Social Security are a huge chunk.
Right. So, are we going to cut those? Defense, as you said, is like 12% of the budget. In order to get us back to a balanced budget, you are going to have to do things that hurt. Okay. And right. I think we should have that conversation. But that's not what we're having here. There's going to be a lot more work.
It's just the beginning. Yeah. It's just the beginning. Everybody's celebrating their new portfolio. Once the talk actually begins, you are welcome here, Mr. Smith, to say what's being said and what's not being said. And I wish you the best until then.
Yeah, thanks for giving me the chance. Happy to come back.
Absolutely. I'll see you again. Take care, sir. Congressman Adam Smith. 3 minutes, 45 seconds. Let's talk a little bit more about the vibe of the reaction to this manhunt and what it says about us, because I think there are a few things that have been hunted and are getting murdered in our society right now. Next. All right, Dusty, what are you seeing out there that makes me sick?
It's still sick. I mean, throughout the show, I'm seeing on X, Davey says United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson made $10 million plus in 2023 while denying 1/3 of all claims. Remember that. And then Raja says, wonderful to see your CEO took a few to the back. May your other executives be next, lest you change your ways. Another says a vigilante takes out a top medical mafia CEO. No one cares. Making money off sick and dying is beyond evil. Reap what you sow. No tears falling. So, it goes on and on like that. It's really quite unbelievable.
Well, I wonder how many of them, probably not Raja, but I wonder how many of them have a crucifix or Christian in their bio. Listen, it just needs to be said, okay? I know everybody wants people to like them. We all want followers. Everybody's telling you this line of bullshit to get you to feel that you're right about everything and that you should be angry at everybody else. We need to check ourselves. We are acting like animals. Anybody who thinks that this kind of reaction of enthusiasm to an assassination makes you better than that person, you are dead wrong. You are dead wrong about how righteous indignation works, how change works, how integrity works. You are the problem as much as anybody else. Anyway, let's go to break. Sickening. It's just sickening. We should be sick of ourselves. Find these people and tell them they suck. We'll be right back.